Okay, so we spoke about a very important understanding of what it's supposed to happen to a person when he is davening properly. When he is davening properly, he's supposed to be detached from his surroundings, not even aware of his own body, because his mind is so intensified that everything is happening up there, and he becomes sort of disconnected from what's happening in his body. Disconnected. And that can very easily take place when a person daydreams, so he becomes entranced in a certain thought, and he's unaware of what's going on around him. Unaware. That's the way a person should actually be when he's davening. Totally unaware. They say Rabbi Akiva started davening in one corner of the Beis HaMidrash, and he ended up in the other corner of the Beis HaMidrash when he finished. And I'm sure he wasn't aware of what he was doing. You're not allowed to move your feet in Shmoneh Esrei. But he did, but he wasn't aware of it. They say that the Barditchever Rebbe also was such a kind of a mispalel, that when he davened, he just lost it all. He just wasn't aware of what was going on. It's a level to strive for. It's not easy to reach that level. It's a level to strive for. Very difficult. But we have to realize that it is possible to get there. It's possible to get there.
Is this a type of meditation, would you say?
That's exactly what it is. It's actually an exercise in meditation. That's what it really is. And you know, to do meditation, you need a preparatory period. You just can't all of a sudden say, okay, I'm going to meditate. You have to have a certain atmosphere. You have to have a build-up towards it. And then you can slowly go into it. That's why we had brought up in the Shem Tov Sefer, he brings down the Chazal, the David Mizmor or Mizmor LeDavid. Sometimes it says the David Mizmor, sometimes it's Mizmor LeDavid. When it says Mizmor LeDavid, the Mizmor is first. The David HaMelech needed the music to get him into the mood to have Ruach HaKodesh. The music was necessary to put him into the right frame of mind. This was the music in the time of the Beis HaMikdash also. The Leviim singing, I guarantee you it had nothing to do with the kind of singing we have today in Shul. Today our singing becomes the main focus and not the words. The Leviim singing in the Beis HaMikdash was to provide a background so that a person could focus on the words more. And that's where you're supposed to really connect. We saw a piece here in the Baal Shem Tov, I'm reviewing what we just said. One of his Talmidim, he said that people think that, and especially in the Hasidic world, nigunim are very, very important. To certain parts of the Tefillah, you have one kind of nigun, other parts of the Tefillah, you have another type of nigun. He switched around. He came along, and he was also in the line of Hasidus. But he's saying, if you really want to get to the truth, you have to have complete silence. Singing is only a distraction. It's a distraction. It takes your mind off the words and puts it into the harmony, into the beautiful melodies, how much you like that song, but you're not really connecting to God when you're doing that. It's a distraction. So you'll ask, and you mentioned it last time about Shlomo Kalbach and all that, It's all fine and good. But that is always for the people who are very far away. They need that to bring them in. But people who are already in, if they use the same methods that they used when they were children, then they're going to remain children. You have to, at a certain time, grow up. Say, well, that was for that period of my life. I'm now ready for higher things. Question? Yeah, any question? You know the famous picture of the person, I was a Greek philosopher, where he has his hand on his forehead and who's that?
Greek thinker.
The Greek thinker.
Rodin's statue.
Rodin's statue. That is an example of a person who's concentrating. I mean, I'm sure there was no music going on at that time when this person was concentrating. If you want to concentrate on something, you have to have full focus. If you have music, it's going to disturb you.
I'll tell you something very interesting about that.
Yeah.
When he has his hand, it's over his pituitary gland, which is directly opposite here, when we put the knot of the roast ability.
Okay?
Oh, good, thank you.
Okay. So we're getting, I mean, this is all very important because coming up to Rosh Hashanah, Yom Kippur, and we know there are many, many nigunim in the davening of Rosh Hashanah, Yom Kippur. They're all fine and good. But it all depends at what level you're at. If you need those songs to really let's put it this way, to keep you in contact, that means you're still, I'm saying it on myself, I'm not saying it about you, that means you're still not really there. If you're really there, you would say, you know, the singing is not for me. It's not for me, it's distracting me. It's distracting me. I want to really zero into the words. The words themselves have the Shekhinah in them. I want to... Each letter. I want to zero in to the words. I'll just give you a little example of what I mean. You'll see.
But if you're in a minyan, I mean, you're davening, and they're singing around you, you just have to just take yourself out of that.
Right. I want to tell you something. I heard it many years ago, and it was so beautiful to hear it. Now, when you go to Hakafas on Simchas Torah, how many nigunim do they sing at each Hakafa? After 5 minutes, they get bored with that nigun, they switch. Even though the Hakafa didn't end, but they switch to another nigun, another nigun, another nigun. Why is that so? Why are they switching? I heard in the yeshiva of Rabbi Aaron Kotler, that's how, in Lakewood, when he was still alive. That was, let's say, I don't know, 60, 70 years ago.
Shlomo
Kabach learned there, that's correct. He was a Talmud of Rabbi Aaron Kotler, correct? Talmud of Aaron Kotler. Every nigun was for 1 hour. They never switched the nigun. Why? Why? And I heard that Rav Shmuel Auerbach, Zichor Levracha, who was Rav Shlomo Zalman's son, who also had a yeshiva here in Shari Chesed, he also did not allow the boys to switch the nigunim. Why? Because what do? They take one pasuk in Tehillim, one nigun, and they sing it over and over and over and over again. And the more you sing it, the deeper you get into it. If you're going to switch it, you lost that depth that you have. You lost it. Why do they, in all these places that they switch the nigun every 5 minutes, you know why? Because they're only interested in the external stimulus and not going into the depth. If you are in the external stimulus, you get bored after 5 minutes. How much are you going to hear the same thing over and over again? It's boring. So you have to switch to keep up your interest, to make it more interesting or something else. But if you're zeroing into the words and thinking about it, then you don't want to switch. You want to stay there and more. And as they were dancing more, they were thinking about the words and chidushim and new perushim and new nuances and other aspects of the same pasuk over and over and over again. It's deeper and deeper and deeper. That's the way it is. Okay, so that's what we did about, so that's as far as concentrating. So as I was saying, we're coming to Rosh Hashanah and Yom Kippur. You have to know you. So where are you? Where are you? If you need the nigunim, that means you're not concentrating on the words deeply. If you want to concentrate on the words deeply, then you have to concentrate on the words deeply and not allow the nigunim to distract you. That's all. You have to realize that. I'm talking to myself here, because I also like the nigunim of Rosh Hashanah Yom Kippur. But this year I'm going to try to focus more on the words. The words have a lot of depth, extreme amount of depth. All these words that we sing, like Ederes V'Yamuna, Oichis Miyad, these were made by Gedolei Yisrael, who had tremendous amount of Ruach HaKodesh, and they put that all into the words. Okay, so it's important to have a little bit of a breakup, to have the singing, but you have to realize if you really want to get something done, you want to really accomplish and connect to God, it's the inside of the words. The inside of the words, that's where the Shekhinah is. That's what you want to do. Okay, so on 132, that's what we get up to. The last one, Pei Gimel. Mem Gimel. One before the bottom. Yeah, that's the page that we had last time. We didn't, no, that's not for today. We had it last time. He says, you have it, yeah, you have it.
132.
Mem Gimel.
Yeah, same.
Yeah, that's it. Shem Tov Zal She'omar Shenes Gadol Hu K'She'adam Chai Acher HaTfilah Shelo Yotza Nishmoso Migodol HaDvekus. Now it's coming up. Yeah.
Listening to you.
Maybe the thermostat, is working that way. Okay. So he says, if you really want to understand where it's supposed to be, you have to realize that if you're really in it, the neshama doesn't want to come back, and it's a nes gadol that you're still alive after davening. That's the truth. That's the truth. Okay. All right. That's what we got up to last time. Now we have to go to the next one. You get a hold of this concept now. Hamidaber below machshava, a person who sings the words, yeah. Or he says things below machshava, he compares it to motzi zera levatala rachmana litzlan, as if a person has a semen leave him and it's wasted. It's wasted because you're giving out your energies. You're speaking. When you speak, your energies are coming out of your body. So it's like, and there's no concentration at all. So it's like your seed is wasted. It's wasted. It's about Torah. Why? Ki hamachshava etzel ha'adam. Now you're on the new page. On page 133 on top, it says, the first word is hu shir koma. The thoughts that come out of a person are an entire, I would say, network. It's an entire set. Shir koma shlema. It's an entire set. It's not just a thought. That thought has a lot of body to it. It's a complete entity. What's the raya? Look what he says. Raya is that ki kisha'adam mechashay b'davar echad be'es hazivuk. Oh boy. When a person has thoughts, when he's together with his wife, molid ben tamura, the child that comes out is going to be affected by that thought. If he has thoughts other than he's supposed to, the kind of thoughts that he has will affect that child. It will affect that child. And if there's no thoughts at all, then the child's going to be lacking in something. klum, mein hazivu, if he's not thinking about anything at all, eino yochol lizaveh. If he has his thoughts completely on other areas of all, he will not be able to have relations with his wife. Hamachshava hu hachachma, the adibur hu ha'alada. You hear that? The machshava is the chachma, and the speech itself, that is the power of the giving the birth. Ki gam hamachshava yesh osyos. You hear that? The machshava itself has letters to it, because when you think in words. You just don't think in concepts. You think in words. Ki mechashev ba'osyos. Uk'sha'adam eino mechashev b'meshu medaber, azai hu kimotzi zeh levatolo. She'adibu hu achaya shelo. What's coming out of you, that's your life force. And there's no thought behind it, no machshava, it's just totally wasted. Totally wasted. Amazing observation. Nobody wants his seed to be wasted, so you don't want your breath to be wasted either. Why should your words be wasted? If your words have no thought behind them, it's like giving out your energy in bechinam, it's for nothing. It's like when a person's seed comes out of him, he doesn't want it to be wasted, he wants it to have some outcome, some value. Well, it only has value if there is thoughts behind it. It doesn't make a difference if a person has children or doesn't have children. The thoughts of the person when he has the relations with his wife give life to his seed. And if to be makayim a mitzvah of ona, then you're having a big schar by thinking of that while the person is having relations. It's kind of mitzvah of ona. So that is a machshava which gives the seed a body, a life. It's a big thing. Okay, that's that. So it's very important that the words we have should be accompanied by thoughts. The words we have must be accompanied by thoughts. Very, very important. Otherwise, it's wasted seed. Wasted seed. Okay, the next one. Kisha Adam b'madrega katana. Oz tov yoser lispalel mitoch hasidur. He's been telling us all along about Shem Tov. If you want to really daven properly, close your eyes, picture the letters, right? Picture the letters and go into the letters. Expand the letter and think of yourself going into the letters. So you have it in the mind's eye. In the mind's eye. But let's say you're not on a really good madrega now. It's hard for you to concentrate. Hard for you to concentrate. He says you're on the level of mochin dekatnus. You are immature. Your mind right now is immature. When it's mature and it's in control, then you can close your eyes and think of the letters and think of yourself going into the letters. But if you're not on that level of concentration, what do? Open up the siddur, put your finger on the words, and go from letter to letter. Yechanoch, this one's for you. This one's for you. Mamish says, since you don't understand the Hebrew, but you want to get the credit for the Lashon HaKodesh, so he says, put your finger on the letters as you're saying them, and think of yourself going into the letter on the page. Why not? It's in your mind, it's much better. If it's totally rational, it's better. But if you need something more concrete, so put your finger on the letter and go from letter to letter. Think of yourself going into the letter on the siddur in front of you. That he calls madrega katana. Can I tell you something?
Oh, that's a big step.
Compared to everybody else whose mind is in Hawaii or Honolulu or down in Eilat or whatever it is, you are a gadol hador.
Only
If you-
to put the finger and to follow the words, yeah.
You're going to Adar if you do that. Letter by letter, think of yourself going into letters, following your finger on the page.
So what image happens to you when you do that?
You look at you focus on the letters on the page with your finger. You don't have to understand anything. Just to focus the letter and think of yourself as you're saying the words going into each letter. Going into each letter. Occupying the space of the letter. You occupy the space of the letter. And you become unified, one with the letter. You're one unit. And then all those letters join together, make a word, and they go up, and you're with it. You went up with it, and it's accomplished what it has to accomplish. If you can do that, remember the word Baal Peh, without having to look inside. Close your eyes and visualize the letters themselves without looking inside. That's a higher level. That's a level of higher mental maturity, what she calls Mochin de Gadlus. Mochin de Gadlus. But if you can't do it, you can't visualize it, you can't concentrate, then do it by visualizing the letter actually. By looking at the letter and going from letter to letter. Now that's going to take also a long time to do.
Yeah, that also takes.
So at least do it for the first, second, third bracha. At least. And the rest of them go regular. As I told you, I'm already at a point where I more or less, every morning, I do it only for Shacharis. For Mincha and Ma'ariv, I try a little bit also to do it, but it's less, but I give my full attention to it in Shacharis, and Shemona Esrei in Shacharis takes me 20 minutes. 20 minutes. That's it. Kedusha, what means Kedusha? I stop and listen. That's all. I stop and listen, and Bim B'Haven as if I'm saying the Kedusha. That's it. Afterwards I continue. Birchas Kohanim, same thing. Stop and listen. I'm a middle I can't talk. Can't do anything. I would be happier with myself if I didn't even hear the Kedusha, if I didn't hear the Birchas Kohanim. I'm so into it, they don't hear it. Like when you're in a daydream, a really good, deep daydream, someone doesn't talk to you loudly, you won't focus, you won't hear it. You won't hear it. You won't hear what they're
And
saying.
what about Kaddish?
Anything.
Yeah.
You really shouldn't hear anything. If you're really involved deeply in Shemona Esrei, you should be so out of it that you don't know anything about the world at all. Not even aware of your own body. That's if you're really into it like you should be. It's a very high level. It takes a lot of work. It takes a commitment that I'm going to get there. I'm going to work on it. I'm going to get there. I want to get to that point where I am disconnected from the world. I'm connecting because you have to understand one thing. We're trying to connect something to something which is totally spiritual. There's no physicality at all. In the Shekhinah, there's no physicality whatsoever. Now how are you going to connect to something that is totally spiritual when you are totally physical? You can't. It's two different worlds. Two different worlds. You must put the physical down by totally ignoring it and putting all of your energies into the mind, into the thought processes. All of your energy into there. You don't leave any energy left for the body. Don't leave it. It just exists, but you're not aware of it. It exists, but you're not aware of it. You're totally into it. It's a very, very beautiful high level. When you can do that, you're in a state of sort of like ecstasy, instead of a state of euphoria.
Yeah.
A state of euphoria. And then when you come down, oh boy, I don't want to come down. I don't want to come down. I want to stay there. It's so beautiful up there. Over there, there's no worries, there's no black, everything is just beautiful. Everything is in the high. Who wants to come back down to this? Who wants it? You can get there, but it's a lot of work. It's a lot of work. A person, you have to go to school to teach himself how to become a Baal Ruach HaKodesh, a Navi. In the times of the Nevi'im, there were thousands of Nevi'im. Thousands. They had schools. They were called the B'nai HaNevi'im. It's not something that's done overnight. It's a work. But we can't get to that level, but we can get to the level we become unaware of the surroundings. That you can't. You may not reach Nevuah, but you can get so into it that you're, out of touch with everything else. That's what you're trying to reach. That's the goal. That's the goal. So he says, if you can't reach that goal, you're at a low level, your mind is not as matured as you would want. You call what he calls mochin, the katnus. Use your finger. Put your finger on the letters and watch your finger as it goes from letter to letter. And think of yourself going into each letter on the page without thinking about what it means, nothing. I just say the letter, I'm going along with the letter, and the letter's going to go up for Shemayim because it became spiritual. What left my mouth, it turned into hot air. The hot air is going to go up to Shemayim, and I'm going to go with it. Then you didn't mispal Yosem Kavana. Aval kishehu davuk ba'olam ha'elyon, azay yoter tov lisgor einav. But if you're on a high madrega, it's better to close your eyes. Kedei shelo yivatel also hari'iyah milios davuk mi'olam ha'elyon. You don't want sight to take you down from your level. You don't want sight. Your eyes open takes you down from that connection. Because you want to connect to what we call nothingness. You want to connect to nothingness.
Nirvana?
I don't know what nirvana means. I don't know what it means.
Something like nothing.
But you want to connect to nothingness. And if you have your eyes open, then you have somethingness already coming into your mind. You want the somethingness to be out. Now let me ask you a question. Let me ask you a question. Every single day you say Shema Yisrael. Right?
Yeah.
What do you do when you say Shema
Close
Yisrael?
the eyes, yeah.
Why do you close your eyes? Why? Why do you close your eyes? Why can't I can't say Shema Yisrael with my eyes open? Sure you can. Why not? Why do we close our eyes?
Not to be connected with the outside world.
Because you want to connect Hashem Echad. You want to connect to that. You don't want it to be seeing anything. You don't want anything to disturb you. That's like, that's like this. Our eyes can be a great
Attractor?
no, I mean they can be a great positive influence. We can see wonderful things with our eyes.
Think, but also
But in certain levels the eyes become a distraction. There was a great Kabbalist here in Yerushalayim many years ago who was blind. But he could see everything. He knew everybody who was coming into him. He knew what they looked like. His Kabbalistic sensitivities were so refined that he was able to understand everyone. I saw it written about the Baal Shem Tov that when he heard a person's footsteps, he knew the person. He knew the person from his footsteps. The sound,
the footsteps.
the footsteps, yeah, the footsteps. The footsteps. He understands the person from his footsteps. The Arizal would take a person's pulse and know everything about the person from his pulse. His sicknesses, everything from his pulse. Picked it up. They were so refined. They worked on themselves to refine their senses, to become more spiritually involved and less physically involved. The more spiritual you are, so the more you have access to the spiritual revelations. And you know something? I'll tell you something else that you never probably thought of. The Shloah Kadosh says, why we fast on Yom Kippur? Why do we have to fast? So you say, well, we have to have a kapara, and we have to, torture ourselves.
To concentrate better.
Well, that may be part of it. When he says, you're trying to cue in to the spiritual world that gives the kapara. If you want to cue into that world, you have to be as spiritual as you can. And if you're going to eat and drink, you're using your physical body, it's active, it's operating, it's hard to be very spiritual. If you want to cue into the Shemayim that's giving the kapara, so you have to be Shemayimi. You have to be heavenly. And you can't be heavenly if you're going to be physical, material. So get rid of all of that stuff. Even you don't even wash either. We don't wash, because washing, again, activates the body. It makes the body feel. You want to, as far as you can, distance yourself from all physical stimulation on Yom Kippur, so that you can cue in to that body in Shemayim that is giving us the kapara, which is something which is above nature, something which is totally spiritual. That's what the Shlosh says, one of the reasons we fast. To remind us that we want to get a kapara from the spiritual world, then we have to become spiritual, at least on that day. It doesn't work. It won't be able to connect to us if we're physical. Some people who are not allowed to fast on Yom Kippur because of health reasons, Min Shemayim, they'll be given a pass. Because it's not by their own choice that they're not allowed to fast. Medically, they're not allowed to fast. It could be dangerous for them to fast. So they will get the credit for that, even though they are not fasting fully. Okay. Let's go further. Hachacham Einav Barosha Lahavin Lahaskil Im Hazman Gore Shiyuchel Lachavein Besod Hapnimi Ulis Ane Kanal Mutav. A person has to be aware of himself. If he happens to be in such a time that he's able to get into the pnimius of things and have the oneg, feel the blissful state, that's good. V'im roa shehu besod hakadlus, ve'eni yochol lechavein, shemizgaber l'machshava zoros, azai yispalel ketina ben yomu mitoch haksav. So Davening, as yet, it's a repeat of the previous one with a little bit of expansion. You can't fool yourself. You cannot fool yourself. If you're not on the level to daven with your eyes closed, then open up the sefer, the siddur, and daven like a child. Kasher heir mori al atzmo. You hear this? One of the, I don't know if he was talking about the Baal Shem Tov or not. He said one of his teacher who said that he was not in his mokum kavua. He was in another country traveling. Eretz acheres. Zman ma. For a certain amount of time. B'bechina zu. He was at this level. Now here's a very important revelation. Very important revelation. There's a halacha that if a person should have a mokum kavua to daven. Right? You know that one?
No.
A person should have a set place to daven. Now this requires a little bit of understanding. It's very important for you also, because I'm sure you're makbid on Mokum Kavur. You want to have a certain place that you daven, your place. Now listen to this, very important. For what the Baal Shem Tov is telling us here, he's telling us that one of his Talmidim was saying, when my Rebbe was traveling, and he was not in his Mokum Kavur, it was hard for him to concentrate. So he had to open up the siddur. He couldn't visualize the letters in his mind. His mind was not solidified, wasn't able to do it. So he opened up the siddur, davened from the siddur, like a child. What is he telling us here? He's telling us here, one of the main advantages of having a set place to daven is that your neshama establishes a channel from that place, and it'll be easy for you in that place to connect. Because the lines are already there. The lines are already there. All you have to do is turn on the switch. But the lines are there, already there. But if you're not in your regular place, you have to make new lines. You have to put up a new system. It's very hard to do that. Therefore, it's important to daven in a makom kavur, in your regular place. that you always daven. Now, get this now, what I'm going to say now is very, very important. Let me ask you this. To daven in a makom kavua, in your regular place, is that a right that you have so that if somebody else is sitting in your place, you could say to him, excuse me, this is my makom kavua?
Yes.
That's what you say, that's what many people say. Let me tell you something. The halacha is that if the shul has a system where they sell seats and you buy your seat for Rosh Hashanah Yom Kippur, you buy it for the year, then you certainly have the right to say, excuse me, sir, this is my makom kavua. I paid for the seat. But most shuls do not sell seats for a whole year. They sell only for the Yom Narayim. And therefore, your makom kavua is not yours. It's not really yours. You didn't pay for it. You have a chazakah that you have always been sitting in this place, but that does not entitle you to ownership. Davening in the same shul is also a makom kavua, as long as you don't move out of the shul. You want your place, you daven because you have established the channels there, you feel good in your place. Come early. Come early to have your place. You have a right to ask a person who doesn't know that it's your place, and he sat down, he came before you. You have a right to ask him to get up? What right do you have? You didn't buy the seat for the year. It's very nice to daven in your own place, your chazakah you have, but you have no right to ask him to move. All the seats in the shul are open to everybody except the seat of the Rav. That's the only one that nobody can sit in. But all the other seats in the shul are available to everybody. There is no ownership. Chazakah is not an ownership. Chazakah means that you have established a certain habit and you like to sit here and it's wonderful. You have what you have done made a hidur in your tefillah. You have what's elevated your tefillah to a higher madrega by having it in a makom kavua. But you don't own the seat. You can very, very finely and I would say in a very, very diplomatic way that won't hurt a person's feelings, you could say, my dear friend, Shalom Aleichem, I usually daven in this place. You don't have to move. If you want to sit here, you can sit here. But I would like, if you wouldn't mind, to move over a seat that I can have my seat. If you wouldn't mind. But if you would want to stay here, it's perfectly all right. I'm perfectly understand it. You were here before me. It's your place. If you want to do me a favor, to be a nice guy to me, okay, I would appreciate it. But you don't have to. You know, that's the way you have to approach it. You have no rights to that makom. If somebody sits there beforehand, you have no rights. It's not coming to you. You can ask him a favor and be nice to him and do it in a very diplomatic and a kind way, considerate way. But otherwise, you can sit anywhere. The whole shul is a makom kavua. It doesn't have to be in that particular seat. Go ahead.
Well, right now, for the Rosh Hashanah Yom Kippur, they put your name on the seat. And the name stays on there all year round.
Well, you have to speak to the Gaboim and ask them, does that mean...
Everybody knows that seat
if
belongs to me, and nobody ever sits there.
If it's the custom of the shul that the seat that you buy for Yom Narayim remains your seat for the year, then that's fine. Then that's the custom of the shul.
Yeah.
But most places, it's only for Yom Norayim. And the reason that the name is there because they're too lazy to take it off. That's all.
The shul I go to pray is very little, and luckily, thanks to Hashem, I'm one on the first, with the minyan there. And the point is like that, what you say, maybe less than half of the minyan is regular. All the rest of the minyan is changing every day new people. It's like a tourist yeshiva, it looks to me.
Yeah.
So there are some people that come every day, but one man specifically, it's not a man, I call him a neshama. He has his face, but he's all the time later than me. And the point is very simple. When you go to a shul, you don't know the shul, it's like derech eretz to ask, where is the place for the guests?
All right.
You see, that you ask, where is, so out in all the time, there was maybe 2 people, they asked, where can I sit? So, that's another way. So I tried to help this man, and I put something on the standard, that people see, oh, there's something on the standard in the Siddur. But even then, it's not so easy to...
Okay, so those are all the very nice things to do. A person is a stranger in the shul, he walks in, and he doesn't want to take away anybody else's food, so he asks. But let's say he didn't there, he forgot to ask.
Don't ask. It's not so popular to ask anymore, where to sit.
No, it's some people do that. I've seen it in my shul also. People come in, they ask, can I sit here, can I sit there? Because they don't want to take away anybody else's
Yeah, that should be.
But halachically, you have no ownership. You have no ownership of that seat unless you buy it for the year, or the shul has the custom that whatever you have in Rosh Hashanah is yours for the year. See, again, it went off Hanabi. See, you had to open the window.
Oh, no, we have to take out the battery.
But again, it went off. But again, it works by a thermostat. It must. I don't know. It's not working.
This has been an on and off situation.
It's not. It has to be fixed. It has to be fixed.
Shabbat was good. It was yesterday.
Yeah. All right. Okay, let's go on.
Yeah. Kadima.
Now upstairs we had
They got the order on.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah, maybe we should go upstairs.
Kasher Heya Mori Al Atzmo Shahaya Be'eretz Acheres. We're in the middle of Memvav. Middle Memvav. His Rav said that when he was in another country, Zman Ma, for a certain amount of time, he was in this level that he couldn't concentrate. Shenistalik Mimenu Hanal, he didn't have the mochin of godless, he didn't have the mature mind, and he would attach himself to the letters by looking at the words with his finger. V'yamar, and he said further, Ka'asher mispalel mitoch haksav, umedabek atzmo el ha'osios, azai male bechinas asiya. You are taking the lowest levels and elevating it. Elevating by doing that. Ki tevas, tevas ksav hu rosh tevas keser ksav. Keser shel malchus. Shuhu taf. Al yedei bina. All right, that's going into the Kabbalistic, the Sfiros. But what you're elevating, this law, this material word, this material letter. Until you're able to get back to your other level, or be able to visualize it in your mind, everyone should use the siddur. Everyone should use the siddur. And I'll tell you, there's another place where people make the same mistake. You know where? In Birchas HaMazon. Birchas HaMazon, people eat every single day. They eat every day. Most people eat bread also. Most people eat bread. Some people don't, because it doesn't agree with them. Most people eat bread. So if you eat bread, eat a slice of bread. The average slice of bread is a kazayas. And it requires Birchas HaMazon. So Birchas HaMazon becomes like saying Ashrei. Most people know Ashrei Baal Peh. Because you say it 3 times a day. Ashrei every single day. So you learn Ashrei Baal Peh. Same thing, people have Birchas HaMazal. They know it Baal Peh. So they don't open up a siddur or a birkon or a bencher. They say it Baal Peh. What happens when you say Birchas HaMazal Baal Peh?
Oh, very quick. TGV in France. Very quick.
Very quick and with no kavanah. Your mind's all over the place.
Bli lashon hara. But at least I'm surprised they have so much. They can memorize everything. Look to the positive. I cannot do it.
You know something? I'll tell you something. It's very interesting.
Most people don't even bench the whole.
All right, whatever.
I notice when I'm in a group, I'm the last one to finish benching all the time.
They just swallow the words.
Yeah.
You know something? I'll tell you a very interesting thing. Think about this for a minute. Compare Birchas HaMazal to Shmona Esrei. Which one is more chamur? Which one is more, I would say, I can't think of the word chamur in English.
More important.
Not important, not so that's the word important.
Yeah.
Which one requires greater, I would say, kavod? Which one you should give more attention to? So let me ask you, if you have a daraisa and you have a darabanan, which one do you give more attention to?
Oh, the Raisa.
Daraisa.
Oh.
Well, let me tell you something.
The Raisa is in
Birchas HaMazal,
is in the Torah. The
Birchas HaMazal is daraisa, and tefillah is darabanan.
Right.
Did you realize that?
Oh.
Birchas HaMazal is
Says in
daraisa.
Pirkei Avot, if you don't bench after eating, it's like stealing food from Hashem.
That's if you don't say the bracha beforehand, not after. Bracha beforehand.
MIDRASH RECHAVIA. Yeah.
Tefillah is the Rabbanon.
Yeah.
One tefillah a day is the Raisa. And it doesn't have to be Shmona Esrei. You can go over to the wall
No.
and say, God, I need you to help me. And you're Yaitz Tefillah the Raisa. All of the tefillah that we say Shmona Esrei today was arranged by Anshe Knesset HaGedolah. It's all midrabanan.
But what about the point you stand in front of Hashem during the Amidah, in front of the King of the Kings?
Well, that you're right. That is the basis for tefillah. That's you have to have that awareness, of course. But the entire wording and everything, all that's the
The
Rabbanan.
Rabbanan, right? You make a big point.
But Birchas HaMazon is the words of the Raisa.
Right, yeah.
And you know, some people when they do Birchas HaMazon,
Yeah.
I'll tell you something. I was once visiting in a school in a Talmud Torah, and I came to see the principal. The principal, Chanoch, you got to hear this. I came to visit a Talmud Torah, and I came to see the principal. Listen to this. I was amazed by it. I really learned from it. The principal went out to the washroom for a minute, came back into the office, put on his hat and his long coat, went over to the door, to the wall, and stood up and started saying Asher Yatzar. You know what he did? He come in from the bathroom, put on his long coat, his bekisha, kapata, whatever you want to call it, put on his hat, went over to the wall, and said Asher Yatzar b'kavana. I said to myself, wow, I want a child of mine to go to be his Talmud. This is what he did for Asher Yatzar.
What do you do for bench?
I can imagine what he would do for Birchas HaMazal. I can imagine what he would do for Birchas HaMazal. Some people for Birchas HaMazal, and I took it on myself, always bench from a bencher, not to have their mind floating and say, always bench from a bencher, helps them to concentrate better. And they put on a jacket, and some put on a hat too.
Oh, it was mostly.
The Birchas HaMazal. You figure, well, I'm sitting at the meal I'm eating. I don't eat with a hat and a jacket, it's uncomfortable. Right? It's uncomfortable. You want to eat comfort, so you take off your hat, take off your jacket, you sit in the shirt, you eat.
But
Okay.
people put their hat back on it when they bench.
Well, the ones that you saw are far and few. Most people do not. Most people do not. They just do the benching as they were eating. But they're not giving the benching its true honor, its true cover. It's the raisa. It's the raisa. And it's very kedai to give the birchas hamazon its true cover. Do you know why? Because the Sefer Chinuch says a person who does birchas hamazon like he's supposed to, all the time, he has a guarantee that he always will have parnasa.
Yeah.
He'll always have parnasa. Doesn't he'll be rich,
Yeah.
but he'll always have parnasa. Hashem will always make sure that he has parnasa if he does birchas hamazon with the correct cover. And it's very kedai to do something special for birchas hamazon. Yeah.
What are the wordings, Doraita, Birkat Hamazon? We know that there are different.
The first three brachas
Yeah.
are the doraisa. First one, Bazonas Hakol. The second one, Al Oretz Ve'al Hamazon. And the third one is Bonei Yerushalayim Amen. Those three are doraisa. The fourth bracha is midrabanan. The fourth one.
I remember.
But the first three are the doraisa. And it's the only bracha that we have in the Torah that's mentioned. The only one. The pasuk in the Torah mentioned. V'yachalta v'savota uve'rachta.
Right.
It's the only one, the only bracha we have. We're supposed to make 100 brachas a day.
Mm-hmm.
All the brachas that we make all day long are all midrabanan. Only one is the raisa, is birchas hamazon. V'yachalta v'savota uve'rachta. Some say birchas HaTorah is also deraisa. Some say. But everyone agrees that birchas hamazon, that's midoraisa. And therefore it should be given the respect and the awe that we give to Shmona Esrei. Just like for Shmona Esrei, you daven with a lot of respect and you stand straight and you fix your tie, whatever it is you're wearing. You don't daven Shmona Esrei stam, because you're standing in front of God. The same kind of decorum should be for birchas hamazon too.
Can I tell you a little funny story about an old lady in an old people home, and she became 100. So it's good to listen to a person 100 years old. She said, "Why Birkat Hamazon is so long?" And then she said, "Where are you thinking? Your thinking is far away." So she had said, "They teach me something to say, make it short and with Kamanam and whole lab." And she says, "Gott sei Dank für Speis und Trank." Hashem says thanks for the eating and the drinking. And she became 100. I don't say that she never made the Birkat Hamazon. You had a question on that, why it's so long. But this
Well, that's also a very big thing, that she took that to heart,
Yeah.
and she said that with her entire kavanah. That's a big thing.
Yeah.
It's a big thing. Okay, very good. So we'll end for today. Mitzvah Shem. We'll be back tomorrow, next Sunday. And we still got up to where? We got up to Mem Zayin.